Welcome to another BBA Roundtable Discussion. Today we're going to explore the Building Safety Act and specifically the construction supply chain's expectations post-implementation. So to start us off, Bill, I'm going to come to you. How ready is the industry?
Thanks, Tony, and welcome everyone to BBA. I'm the Technical Director of BBA, so welcome to my patch. It's great to be here. I'm going to answer this question just from the BBA's perspective, because really what I want to do is to hear what everyone else has got to say. It's why we've invited a group here to talk to us. But BBA, we certify products, we have accredited installer schemes, looking at lots of other things, but I won't go there now. We are seeing plenty of new products coming through. So people are gearing up, they're developing their product range that's going to be provides the industry suitable products. The competency schemes that we are certifying, they're also building up. We're seeing new schemes coming to market, new interest in that domain. We're certainly seeing plenty from the regulator or regulators, and plenty of regulation and plenty of material coming through. So there's a lot happening and a lot of collateral. I expect that at some point this afternoon we'll get on to the merits and demerits of that, because all of us are in day jobs here and it's pretty hard to track, I would say. But I think that the piece that I would particularly draw attention to is assurance and data. And I think that would be the area I would like to focus on most in terms of work to do going forward.
Yeah, and you mentioned the development of new products. Tim, let's come to you because you are a manufacturer. How ready are you to implement this legislation?
We're not developing new products, particularly for the Building Safety Act, but of course with the Schedule 11 being very clear within the Building Safety Act about the procedures and the performance of products from a building manufacturer, we're working very, very hard to make sure that the products that we already supply, that are already certified, meet the new levels and the constringent levels that they're going to need going forward. I think from our point of view, it's a welcome change. I think it's very, very important that that existing products going into supply chain are recertified and analysed to make sure that they're fit for purpose. Whether I think the rest of the industry is pulling in the same direction, I'm not quite sure, if I'm absolutely honest. But certainly from a personal perspective, we're working really, really hard to make sure that we're as ready as possible to implement our products right from an early stage in design into the new process.
Sure. So you mentioned in two parts there. You mentioned that you welcome the Act, but also you're not sure how ready the rest of the industry is, or if it's pulling together. You know, tell us more about that.
Well, I'm not seeing a demand from stakeholders that we work closely with within the supply chain for significant change. So, for instance, our products are specified at design stage, but obviously we follow the whole construction process all the way through to completion. And we're not seeing a big demand from architects, main contractors, applicators and stakeholders throughout that process to make sure that our products are any different than they were before, or that they comply with the new legislation within construction materials or within the data collection process for the golden thread. So if I'm honest, I wouldn't be confident to say that the industry is taking a very fast, proactive approach to achieving what the goals that are set out within the Act.
Sure. And of course, you're all here representing different interests from manufacturing, regulation, the BBA and building. So David, in terms of from the building side of the fence, how ready is that part of the industry, do you think?
Yeah, I think I would agree. I think that I can look at this from two angles or two perspectives. I think your tier one contractors are very much geared up for this. I do believe that we were probably in a very healthy place prior to the report. Certainly post Grenfell, there was a sea change in thought process and collation of records, the golden thread as we're now starting to call it. But that stuff was already in place. It was already in part of the process that we were doing. Health and safety files, O&M manuals, compliance with specifications and stuff like that. And I think that the top echelon of contractors, the top echelon of developers were already there. My concern is very, very similar to yours, is that, is everyone else going to follow suit, or are we going to get this gap between the we're complying with the regulations because we understand the reasons behind it, and also we're big names and out for impact from legislation, and the rest of them who could get away with it because. And the other real concern that I've got is these regulations are applicable in the UK, but we import a huge amount of products from overseas, not stow and stow render, but other products, and they're going to be fully compliant with the regulations. So those would be my two concerns. I think the industry generally, predominantly out there on the big build stuff, is up for it. Yeah. I think there's training, guidance and stuff. I think, as you've mentioned, Bill, there's a lot of clarity required on what we are being given. There's a plethora of information being pumped out on a fairly regular basis. I think we need time for that all to settle down. We need clarity, like with the CDM regs when they came out, clarity on who's going to be responsible for all this and the delivery side of it. But from a point of view of managing and regulating it, the fact the HSE are going to get involved, rock on, brilliant for me.
Right, great. So I'm hearing some real positivity, but also a lot of challenges. Nick, from your point of view, in terms of from a regulatory point of view, how are you seeing the level of readiness in the industry?
Yeah, I mean, I come from the Office for Product Safety and Standards, and we are the new national regulator for construction products. So it's important to point out that whilst we're the new regulator for construction products, we were already the established UK regulator for products generally. So for all other products in your home, with the exception of food, your car and your medicines, we were already established as the product regulator for those products. So we've got we start from a place where we already have a lot of established expertise and processes in place, but we've had construction products under our remit now for 2 years. It's important to point out, though, we don't yet have this new legislative framework. We have the Building Safety Act. The new legislation will follow in time as the secondary legislation is laid in Parliament. So at the moment, we are in a transition phase where we have the legacy legislation, which is EU-derived, and we are waiting for the new legislation that our sponsors at the Department for Levelling Up Homes and Communities are developing. So we are in a transition phase, and certainly as the regulator, we are going through very much an analyse and build phase in terms of building our capacity, our capability, our expertise in terms of so we can test, so we have the right enforcement capability within the organisation to take the appropriate proportionate action when we need to, when we find non-compliance. But we're doing a lot of stakeholder engagement to build relationships, to understand the industry, understand the supply chain, to understand where risk enters the supply chain, because at the end of the day, it's only by collaborating and working together on these things that we're going to make any difference. So we're at very early days. We until we've got the new legislation and framework in place, we will continue with the old. What has happened is that now, as the national regulator for construction products, we now have powers under the existing old legislative framework, the EU-derived construction product regulation. So for the first time, there is a national regulator overseeing market surveillance for products to come to market, which we hope will give confidence to the market and confidence to end users and specifiers that it will provide an opportunity to level up and provide assurance that there is compliance.
Yeah, sure. And Neil, coming to you, also thinking about it from a perspective of regulation and specifically fire, how ready is the industry to take the next step?
For the last 3 years, I've been working to help achieve the delivery of one of Dame Judith Hackitt's recommendations, that a confidential reporting system, a means of keeping information flowing to people that need it about safety critical elements. CROSS has expanded to include fire safety, and it's been readily accepted by the fire sector, already very well established in the structural safety world, but moving across into fire as being recognition that that's part of the new jigsaw. It's just one piece of how you devise a full safety system. The information we're receiving is it's a trickle at the moment. The sector are not pouring their anguish on us and telling us that everything is wrong. We're getting a good flow of interesting reports about all stages, design, construction and management, and a good number coming back from the Fire and Rescue Service, which is far too late for us to be learning lessons. We shouldn't be waiting for the Fire Service to tell us that we're getting buildings wrong. It needs to be picked up earlier. We're welcomed in many places to give talks about how the reporting system works to give people confidence, because there's a genuine need for people to say we're seeing things that aren't right and something needs to be done about it. So Cross is up and running. I can't speak for the wider fire sector in terms of have they achieved a major change since Grenfell. Certainly the Fire and Rescue Service came under great spotlight on the night in an inquiry, but in terms of fire engineers and fire risk assessors, the professionalisation, the recognition of competency, the need to maintain competency, the need for people to identify someone at the appropriate stage in a project and ensure that they're kept through the project is being used far more frequently.
Right. And I noticed and heard the sort of the feelings there where you said that maybe you're not getting some of that reporting fed back soon enough to be able to help create this change. Tim, I'm just going to come back to you. Is that an issue?
Sorry, say that again.
So what I heard from Neil was in reaction to some of the fire safety information not coming back soon enough or quick enough, that I heard a nod of agreement to that. Is that lack of flow of information and readiness of flow of information a hindrance? Does it stop organisations, building firms being ready for this change?
Well, I think just taking that point slightly from a different angle, we're right at the beginning of the supply chain with the construction material. Obviously, with cladding, the spotlight is very firmly on us post Grenfell too. I agree, and the reason why you heard me concur was with Neil's comment about the fact that if they're being asked about building design and product design in the fire service, it's way too late. And I think I would answer that question by taking it right back at the beginning, right the way back to building regulations. The fire safety and fire strategy and design starts with the building regulations, and it starts with the products that are approved and certified by third parties like the BBA and the like. And I would say that that's the area where we need to start working quite hard. We've got building regulations, we have an interpretation of building regulations, and we always have. But I think the word interpretation, I think, has been a hindrance particularly within fire safety, within products. And we need, as manufacturers, we need a lot clearer guidance and definite guidance around fire safety so that we can be better informed with our products to support main contractors, to support applicators, and to support the design of the building. And I think if we get that right, by the time the fire service arrive at a building, then we will have solved an awful lot of those problems.
Sure. And I want to bring in a couple of voices that we haven't heard yet. Just bringing James in here, representing the voice of builders. So how ready do you think the industry is?
I think the short, direct answer to that is we're not ready. But that's because it's complex in what is being proposed. I make no mistake, the Building Safety Act is a seismic shift. It is looking for groundbreaking changes that we maybe haven't seen before or likely to see again. So if I can expand on some of the points made, David's right in his observation that there's a lot of positive movement and preparations being made to respond to what we're yet to find out. So I think, much like Nick mentioned, we are waiting for some secondary legislation to come in place. What we can't be doing as an industry is waiting for that to be dictated and then responding. And we've been told that as such, as an industry, to say, if you wait for that and apply the usual approach, you're going to get caught flat-footed. And no one wants to be, with imprisonment and unlimited fines for failing to comply. So it's a big shift. I don't think we're ready. I don't think anyone can be ready yet. Will we be ready? Absolutely. and I've seen a lot of engagement. Some of it's been mentioned today. So lots of people and organisations are doing huge amounts of work, which is really positive, you know. And today, thank BBA for putting on what they have today, because it's forums like this and consultations, the myriad of consultations that are ongoing. Will we be able to get there? But I think from my perspective, it's instilling processes, procedures of how organisations can remain agile and pivot. So when we do know what other requirements are that become known, an organisation can respond to that far more rapidly than they've ever been able to before. And I think that's going to be the game changer, I think, really, for lots of organisations. So for example, at London Square, we've put together a working group. I think every organisation should have one, because it will change every department in the way that they think, they operate. It's looking for a cultural and a behavioural shift. That won't come overnight. So you do need many hands at work looking at all of those intricacies of consultations and the things that are coming through. We've set up an extranet system which is solely focused on the Building Safety Act, that's connected to the HSE's Building Safety Regulator bulletins. So if any organisation have not set that up, I would highly recommend it. One came out this morning where it's continually giving you feedback. So the learning curve is going to be sharp. I think a worry is how it affects all levels of the industry, the SMEs, because there's a change in building control regime. So over and above what the building safety regulator will do, this changes the output of every single piece of building work that happens, whether it's brand new building or alteration to an existing or your house extension. It's changing the building control regime. Being able to evidence competency is a massive piece of work that is not resolved yet, and everyone's going to have to pull together to try and get there. So there's lots of really good work, but as mentioned, we're right at the early stages. There's a lot of hard work yet to go. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, James. And Paul, just to sort of round up this specific discussion, what are your thoughts listening to everybody's contributions?
I think probably firstly, kind of echoing Tim's points, the advantage from a manufacturing perspective is that we do have the construction product regulations. They've been in some form for a long time. That's based how we've actually been developing products, especially from our side. We're on a very small component level. We've had a lot of harmonised standards around there. But as we, kind of manufacturers in general, develop these new products, it's moving on to how we can bring them out, the guidance around it. So we're getting there. I think from an ACS perspective, we were already there. You've just got to make sure it's not ambiguous, all that guidance. We're finding that probably further down the design chain, probably people don't have the knowledge that they need to. So we're having to make sure everything we're putting out, rather than just giving the minimal amount of information, which we probably would have done, we're almost having to hold the hand of contractors, architects, to make sure that that information, they can use it in the right way, which particularly we would not have done previously. We're making sure that that is there to almost hold the hand, going that extra level to make their job a little bit easier, to make sure there aren't any further incidents and there's no ambiguity in these statements that are going out.
Okay, well, thank you very much. In fact, thank you to all of you.